Hi, my name is Joe, and this is my story about how Jesus communicated with me. Now, let me start off by saying this. I have a beautiful family, three boys. No, I had two boys and a girl. Sorry, Jessica. Uh, and I am recently divorced and been living in this house for the last 30 years. Now, up until now, I've not been a very spiritual person, I would say. I have not been a churchgoer. I did go as a kid, but I have not gone recently. And I would not say that I grew up with Jesus in my life, although I, looking back, had many signs, and could go over those stories at a later date. But as you can see from the video quality, I'm not a YouTube guy. I'm doing this right off an old Mac Air, which is, I don't know, 10 years, 15 years old. I felt compelled to get online, tell my story, because if I can just help one person see the light, communicate my story, have them feel what I went through, then it'd be all worth it. So before I get into my current story, I do have to give this a little. There's some backstory that needs to be told. So I would say 10 or 15 years ago, me and my wife at that time, we had gone to a psychic. It was out in Long Island, and didn't really believe in psychics, didn't really believe that you could talk to people on the other side. Wasn't really even sure if you'd gone to heaven. I'd like to believe that I did, but honestly, I used to wake up with night terrors thinking, what happens when I die? This is it. And those thoughts kept me up. There was one woman who was communicating with the audience and says, listen, I can bring people in and we can talk to people that have passed. I was only there really for the free food and the drinks, which I told was there, which it wasn't. There was no food. Anyway, so as she started going along, recently one of my friends, my best friend, his wife had passed. She had died of Legionnaire's disease, and which is basically all your organs closing down at some point, and then you passing on. So as the night went on, she was going around the room, and she did say, listen, if I stop by anybody, and because I'm never sure where the voices are coming from, so if you hear something that sounds familiar, just raise your hand and I'll come over there. So she's doing some readings, and she finally comes. She says, well, I have this young female here. She has had some kind of disease, and she has some kind of disease, and her organs were shutting down one by one. And again, I was like, well, that could be anybody, right? So she said they also have a cat named Jonesy, which was crazy because my friend's cat was named Jonesy. And the only two Jonesy I know as a cat was from Alien, the movie, and my friend's cat. So I was like, wow. My wife at the time was like, raise your hand. I'm like, no, I don't want to get involved in any of this chaos. This is crazy stuff. At the end of the night, Psychic did say, listen, here's the reality of this. Your loved ones want to get in touch with you, but they don't want to scare you. So they don't want to come to you in the middle of the night, sit at the foot of the bed, and then, you wake up terrified. So the way they usually communicate with us, which I was told, is through some kind of electronics. So I was thinking about a couple of people who had passed, my grandfather, this particular, my friend's wife, and they said, just think of something electronic. So I was thinking, well, 12:26 on the clock. That's my birthday. Let me start with that. And again, I was just playing along at the time. So went home, went to bed, and didn't think anything of it until the phone rang in the middle of the night. I answered the phone, and it was somebody speaking a different language. And I said, hello? And they said, it was a gentleman, He said, "Oh, sorry, I got the wrong number." I said, "Okay." I hung up the phone and was like, "Wait a minute. Is it 12:26? Is this going to freak me out?" So I look at the cable clock and it wasn't 12:26. I'm like, "Oh, good." Then I remembered me, the genius, always sets my alarm clock back so this way I can get extra sleep, like playing tricks on myself or something, which is totally ridiculous. So I look at my clock and sure enough, 12:26. Freaked me out. So I had trouble going back to sleep that night, and which I finally did, and I woke up the next day, told my wife at the time, and I guess I just kind of passed it off as like, hey, this is just one of those things. It was probably a coincidence. Somebody called in the middle of the night, 12:26. So nothing really happened for the next couple of years. I started getting into watching psychics online. There was a couple of famous ones that I would watch. I was always fascinated because I'm like, can you really talk to the people on the other side? I just didn't know. And then I was watching one in particular, and she said, you know what? Anybody can do this. It's not just a gift. It's something that everybody can do. So I was like, well, okay. That caught my interest. Says you really need to be kind of in a deep trance to do it. So I said, all right. I said, maybe one day I'll try that. I didn't try it then. Now, a couple of years later, which is probably like, it was 2020, we had a dear friend of ours, my mom's best friend, had passed. And she had COVID. She was in the hospital. She slipped into a coma. And she had passed a couple of days after that. And I said, you know what? That night, I'm like, I'm going to go home and I'm going to try to communicate with Lynn and see if I can do it. So I went home. I got very quiet, laid in my bed, and started talking to nobody in particular, anybody who was out there. And then the strangest thing started happening to me. I was asking yes and no questions. And every time I'd ask a no question, nothing would happen. And every time I'd ask a yes question, there was, I don't know, I want to say this energy force, feel like the hair's going up on the back of your neck, but like intense, like 100 times more intense than that. Like somebody was actually sticking your finger in an electrical socket, but it wasn't energy that hurt you. It filled you from head to toe. And it was the strangest thing that I've ever felt. And I was petrified at that point because I don't know what's going on. So now I'm asking yes, no questions. And now I'm asking questions that I really probably don't know the answers to. Because, at the time I used to drink and had some tobacco use and wondered what my fate would be if I kept doing that. And it wasn't good. So the more questions I asked, the more I was just like, this is not good. And then I don't know why, but I started going down, the demon route, because you just never know. I've read too much stuff about how bad things can possess you, especially with the Ouija board. So I said, am I possessed in any way? And it lit me up. When I say lit me up, they gave me this energy surge. And when I say energy surge, it's like a dimmer switch. Some are less intense than others. If it's lit up all the way, that means it's pretty serious, yes. So when I asked, am I possessed by demons, it lit me up, yes. I'm just like, you know what, this is not for me, this is not cool, and I'm never doing this again. But before I go, I just want to know, Lynn, are you safe? If you are, just send me a sign. So later that night, I went to bed, and in the morning, I woke up to what I want to call like a blazing light. I don't even know where it was coming from, but it was enough that it woke me. It felt like I was staring into the sun, but there was no sun out, trust me. So when the light clears, I look at the clock, and the clock says 2:46. Now, 2:46 was Lynn's birthday. She was born in February of 1946. So now, again, coincidence? Maybe. But now there's two incidences, and now I'm actually communicating with I'm not sure who on the other side. So the story just got interesting. So, like I started to say before, I've never really been a man of faith or of God, and I really wasn't sure what was happening to me at the time, or people really trying to communicate with me. I was trying to communicate with a friend who had passed also, and I felt like I was, but I vowed I'm never doing that again. So after that night, I didn't even try, and sometimes when I went to bed, I can feel them communicating me, tapping me on the shoulder, which is sending these bolts of energy through me. I'm like, no, and hell no. So fast forward a couple of years, I know I've been getting signs for sure from Jesus. I was going through a really bad time where I was getting divorced, lost my job. It was like, one of those times when you hit rock bottom, you really hit rock bottom. And I was going to the golf course just to clear my head. And there in the middle of the grass, in the middle of nowhere, is green rosary beads, the most beautiful rosary beads I've ever seen in my life. And I picked them up and I just knew. I was like, okay, rosary beads are just not laying on the ground on a golf course. These were meant for me to be seen. So I did pick them up and put them in my pocket. But again, I was going through a tough time, and you know what happens. You kind of rely on God to get you through the tough times, but are you really believing? At that time, I was hoping more than anything else. So fast forward to recent times, which was September of 2025, we're just a couple of months from when I'm filming this. I was pulled into the office and said, hey, your job is being eliminated, which means that I've been taken out of my current job. The funny thing is that I've always had this feeling, probably for the last couple of years, and I'm sure you've had this feeling too, that you just don't belong somewhere, and not just not just at a job. It's like you're meant for something, to do something else, but you're just not doing it. That feeling, it's not just a feeling. This is God's way of pushing you. And the last 3 jobs I had didn't work out, and I know now, you're always like, why me, the woes. But this is God's way of saying, listen, you don't belong where you were. You need to find something else. I gave you gifts, and you're not using these gifts. But at that point, I still was like, why are these things happening to me? But I always refused to play the victim. So one of the things that I wanted to do after this job was over was I wanted to get my health back, spiritually, mentally, physically. So I went on a fast, a water fast for a couple of days, which, by the way, I recommend. Makes you feel great. It opens you up to things that you can't believe, number one. And number two, it gives you just a lot of clarity, and it helps your body. It definitely helped my joints, whatever. So while I'm on this water fast, I start going through YouTube videos, water fasting, and just wanted to see if it was healthy for you. The doctors say that it's not. Who knows? So I saw this one video of somebody who had died and come back. NDEs, they call them, near-death experiences. Never heard of it. I heard of maybe one person who had died and come back, and I know they even made a movie of a little kid, and they said it was real. I didn't think anything of it. And then she started talking about how Jesus wants us to cleanse and whatever. So as I'm looking on YouTube, I'm like, wow, there's literally hundreds of people that have near-death experiences. And I don't believe in conspiracy theories, and I don't believe these people are making this stuff up, but all their stories are kind of similar, very similar in a lot of ways, varied from person to person, but I think that everybody's story is going to be varied. Even when you go to heaven, it's going to be varied by who you are, what you believe. It's kind of like a custom model, but there was a lot of similarities. And as I watched this stuff for 2 days, I realized I was missing out, because all of them came back and says, I had a message from Jesus. Jesus told me to say this. Jesus told me to say that. And I woke up with the epiphany the next day. I was just like, you know what? Jesus is real. He's here. He's helping me. I've seen the signs. I've talked to people on the other side. I've just been ignoring these things. He took me out of these last couple of crappy jobs that I've had and brought me into the light, and wants to show me that there is a better way, and to use my skills and my creativity, which I thought was phenomenal. So after watching all these videos, I kind of went on an Amazon shopping spree, because I didn't have enough stuff in the house that represented that I am Catholic and that's, I believe in Jesus. My ex-wife had some stuff around here, but it wasn't all. So as I started to buy this stuff and I started to pray, that night I went to bed. He woke me up in the morning with an alarm. It was an alarm clock, it was a number symbol. And again, you out there, you're probably like, well, I haven't really heard anything yet. It gets better, trust me. But I knew that night that he had talked to me and he had touched me. And I knew he touched my heart. And I told my family, and I texted them the next day. I said, Jesus just touched my heart. And they said, how do you know? I'm like, I don't have any proof right now, but I just know. I just know that he communicated with me last night. So I was sitting on my couch the next day, and I was just like, wait for my Amazon stuff. And I'm like, I know I have a crucifix, the Jesus Christ gold head that I used to have, that I was given to many years ago. I said, I wonder where that is. So I went in my back room and I started looking for it. And as I'm looking through stuff, I'm finding a lot of stuff like I haven't seen, because when you look through shelves, you're like, oh, I don't like this, I want this. So I looked through this one cigar box that I had as a kid, and it had a little Gumby and Pokey in it, and it had baseball cards and a crucifix. So I was like, wow, a crucifix. I says, let me take this. So I took that out of the box and I started gathering some other stuff. And I couldn't find this Christ head anywhere. And I finally went to the last box. And in the last box was my dreaded enemy, the blood pressure machine. Dun, dun, dun. I've notoriously had high blood pressure, and I wasn't in the best shape at that point either. And even though I had been on a cleanse, I was scared to see what the results were of that thing. So as I take out the blood pressure machine, I was like, okay. Just playing games with myself. I had a lot of fun messing with my own head. I'm like, okay. Blood pressure machine, actually, it's right here. I said, if I put it on and it works, I'll do it. I'll wrap it around my arm, see where I'm at. And I put it on, and I'm like, okay, it went on. But there was low batteries. I'm like, okay. So then I made myself a second little game. I said, okay, if I can find a battery for this thing, I'll definitely put it on. So I go in and I find batteries. And I put the batteries in, and now it goes on. So now I'm sitting at the table that I'm sitting right now, and I put this thing, wrap it around my arm, and I put it on, and The first reading came back 225 over 125. Now, if anybody who's ever had their blood pressure done, you would know that like 120 over 80, 70, somewhere around there is probably normal. 125 over, 225 over 125, which I think was the original reading, which almost means that I'm dead, or I may not make it past this table, or live the next 30 seconds. So I'm like, all right, this has got to be wrong. Maybe it's because it's the low battery, and I did it. I waited. I did it a couple of more times, and 200, 203, 205, over 110, 116. I'm like, these are crazy numbers. I don't even know how I'm standing. And the worst part about it was I felt amazing. I had been eating healthy. I've been on a cleanse, and I felt great. So I didn't know what to do. So I text my cousin, who's a nurse, and I said, hey, this is what's going on with this blood pressure machine. She writes back, get dressed. I'm coming over and I'm taking you to the hospital. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know. I said, I feel great. I don't want to go to no hospital from some blood pressure machine. So I said, let me try this. Let me go run to the supermarket. And when I say run, it's about 6 minutes from here. I ran to the supermarket to get batteries. And I ran all the way around the block and ran all the way back because I figured, hey, listen, if I got my heart racing, maybe I won't die. So I came back, put the things in the blood pressure machine, and I take it again, and it's still 203. So my cousin's like, you gotta go. I said, all right, I'm just gonna go to the walk-in clinic because I'm not going to an emergency room for high blood pressure as high as it was. So we both agreed that'd be a good thing. So now before I go, I want to take my crucifix with me, the one that I found. And I go back, and it's, with the pile of stuff that I collected from the shelves, not there. I go back into the other room, not there. And I'm looking for this thing, and when I'm telling you, when I went from one room to another, we're talking about feet. That's it. So when I went back to look for it and it wasn't there, I'm just like, okay, the clinic's City MD is closing in like a half hour, 20 minutes. I had to get there. So I had some old rosary beads that I had, not the ones that I found. I'll tell you that story another time, but this was another set of rosary beads that I had that were blessed by the church. And I took them from my son from his Holy Communion. Anyway, so I took them with me, and I don't like to carry them with me because the chain was broken and the loop wasn't connected. But I put them in my pocket, still had the cross on it, and I went back and I went to the City MD. When I got there, they took my blood pressure, and the blood pressure at that point was 159 over 88. Now, that's borderline. It's high. It's hypertension. It definitely needs some attention. But it's not 225 over 125. And honestly, if it wasn't the 220, if I didn't see the 225 over 125, I wouldn't even have gone to the doctor, which would have been a huge mistake. She's like, good thing you're here because you can't live with this high blood pressure. It's going to kill you. So the urgency that I got from the really high number brought me there. I called on my cousin, and I thanked her, and I got back to the house, and I put the blood pressure machine back on again. And when I did, it was 158 over 88. So after the walk-in clinic, City MD, I go to CVS and get my prescription filled for whatever this stuff is. Can't even pronounce it. Small dosage. She said, hey, make an appointment to go see your doctor. Yeah, I have one. I'm like, yeah, I haven't been to the doctor in a couple of years. Probably a big mistake. And No, I have not gotten a colonoscopy. That's a whole nother story. So I get back to my house. I'm just like, wow, this has been some ordeal. I'm looking for Christ heads. I'm ending up at City MD. My blood pressure's all over the place. I'm coming home and it's high, but not crazy. And I'm just like, at that point, I was a believer. So I was just like, you know what? This is definitely God's doing. He helped me. But again, this is all subjective. You could look at me and be like, Joe, come on. And I said, yeah, you're right. I would agree with you. And if I was on that side of the camera looking at this side of the camera, I'll be like, yeah, I'm not sure if I believe this guy. But I really have no reason to lie. This would not be my first YouTube video. Honestly, it would probably be about golf or something passionate that I love, but this is my new passion right now. The reason why I started this YouTube channel was to spread the word of Jesus. That's it, period. I want everybody out there to know the power. So, I still haven't even gotten to the good part yet. So now I get home, I'm sitting on the couch, I'm like, wow, this has been an ordeal. And then I said, whatever happened to the crucifix? So I go back in and I'm looking for it, and I'm standing in the middle of the room, and for some reason I just shouted out, I don't even know why. I'm like, Jesus, do you want me to find this or not? And that is when it happened. I got lit up like I am right now, actually, which is ironic because he's ecstatic that I'm telling you this story, but he's lighting me up as we're speaking, which is crazy. But when I say light up, it lit me up. I'm just like, oh my God, that's not a feeling that I had for 5 years when I tried to do it on my own. Now I'm not in a trance. Now I'm just standing and staring at a bookcase, talking to Jesus, asking me if he wants to find this crucifix. And I got lit up. Yes, I want you to find it. I was like, whoa. And you know what? At that point, I wasn't scared. Because now I'm thinking back, I'm like, was that Jesus trying to talk to me before? Was he trying to communicate? Whatever the case was, I knew that I had to find this thing, and if he could help me find it, it would just help me understand better about what he was, what he was trying to communicate to me. So I was playing like hot potato with Jesus. I'm like, is it here? Nothing. Is it here? Nothing. Is it here? The dim switch goes on a little bit. Like I'm getting closer. And I'm honestly not making this stuff up. And then I get over to this box and I get lit up, and definitely. And I said, Jesus, this is the box that I found the crucifix in. I said, I know I'm going a little stonad in the head, but I know that I took it out of here. So I opened up the box again. I'm like, there's something you want me to find in here? Because as I'm going through it, all I see is the baseball cards and the Gumby and the Pokey. And he's like, yes, look in there. I'm like, all right. So I'm going through the baseball cards, and as I'm going through the baseball cards, stuck in the middle of it is a picture of my grandmother. A picture of my grandmother who had hypertension, high blood pressure, had a stroke, and died many years later because of it. And she was in a assisted living home. And I used to tell her, take your medication, get your blood pressure checked. And here I was in the same situation, not doing it. And here she died of that. And now I'm staring at a picture of her that Jesus led me to, which is even crazier. I cried. I'm not gonna lie. I cried. I cried because I knew the severity of it. I knew that I was just saved. I knew that Jesus was real. I knew that my life would never be the same. October 1st, and I'll never forget the day. This was the day that changed my life. Everything changed. He was speaking through me. And there's no other way to say it. There's no way to say that it wasn't real. He led me right to this thing. But the story continues because as I'm taking the picture, I'm bringing it into the room. As I'm bringing it into the other room, my bedroom, I start to light up. And it was right where I had put the rosary beads when I came back from the city MD. And I'm like, you want me to fix the rosary beads, don't you? And he's like, yes. And again, dimmer switch, all the way up, lightning inside me, energy, powered to the max. So I said, okay. And so what I did then is I took them, and he could even show me where the needle nose pliers were to fix them. I took the needle nose pliers. I had tried fixing those things many times before, but when you don't have the right tools, you can't do it. But the needle nose pliers, boom, 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 I fixed it, made them whole again. And then he lit me up. He's like, wow, that great job. I'm like, he says, Jesus is patting me on the back for fixing the rosary beads. I'm like, this has been some day. So I'm sitting down again and just trying to take it all in. And I'm like, okay, where is the crucifix cross? I still haven't found it. He led me to my grandmother's picture. It was very emotional. It was great. So I went back in the room. I'm like, Jesus, do you want me to find this? And he lights me up, yes. And I'm like, help me. And I'm like over these things. Is it here? Is it here? Is it here? And finally, over the dog's bed on the floor, which I had checked before, it was stuck all the way in the cushion. He lit me up, said, hey, this is where it is. And I look and I just see a little piece of metal there, and I pull it out, and there's the cross. I would have never found it. I've never found it. It was tucked in this thing. But he led me right to it. And, just playing, is it here? Is it here? Which is totally bizarre. So then I took it inside. It needed to be cleaned. So I was cleaning. I'm like, I have some cleaning solution downstairs. Let me get it. So I go downstairs and I'm in my boiler room. And all of a sudden, dimmer switch lit to the max. I'm like, what do you want me to find? I'm like, you want me to find something. So I'm going around the room, and finally I'm near a cabinet, and I open the cabinet. I don't see anything, but it's here because he's telling me it's right here. So I look up, and clear as day, the Virgin Mary. It was a vase that I had taken from my other grandmother's house. She had passed, and there's only one thing that I took from that house, and that was that vase. And that vase needed to be found. Now, Jesus is telling me that you have a whole system behind you. You have people that love you, that are here. He was giving me that clear message. Now, my grandmother's picture, my other grandmother's face. I'm just like, you know what, he's communicating with me right now. It's crazy. It really is. So I put it on the stairs, and I go back to shut the light, and not to get too much into the rest of the story because it's definitely a story for another day. There was some stuff in the basement, 5 specific things that he made me take out of the basement because they were kind of possessed, demonized, I'm assuming, but made me take them out of the house, throw them in the garbage, do a blessing over them, and send them away. As I was doing the blessing over, I could feel him through me, saying thank you. And the only thing I knew was, the blessing from the God, from the omen. And so that's what I did, and I threw it. The power of Christ compels you, and I threw the garbage. I threw everything in the garbage and threw it out for the next day. Put it out to the curb. So that's really where my story starts. That's where my life started. I started praying. It was so bad that I actually had to go Google the words to Our Father because I had forgotten them. Can you imagine that? If you're Catholic, you know what I'm talking about. This is something that you've said a billion times. The Hail Marys, forgot them. Had to relearn them. Said prayers. He still answers me in the forms of he sends me Bible passages, people's birthdays. Hey, if I'm on the right track, can you make sure that you send me somebody's birthday, a friend's birthday? Wake me up. I've been waking up. I woke up in the middle of the night several times. My daughter's birthday, my son's birthday, two of my friends' birthdays, Bible passages. And again, those are subjective. What I felt is not subjective. My life has changed. I'm not going to lie. It's going to be hard to go back to any job to work for somebody to make them money, because my gift and my calling is much higher than they can ever pay me, honestly. My self-worth is through the roof. And one of the things that I've learned through all of this is, and I've made several videos and I've created several songs, and I can actually put a link to, but 8 Minutes to Grace is one of my favorites. I was writing that. Jesus loved it. And when I say loved it, when I got finished, writing it and viewing it and finished the project, he was like, he lit me up like, this is phenomenal. And it really was a good piece of work. And it was based on somebody who died, didn't think she was worth anything. She got struck by lightning, came back, and had her story about she thought she was worthless and said, you know what, God doesn't make mistakes. And, every day I look in the mirror. Sometimes you don't like what you see, but you know what? You're perfect just the way you are. That's the lesson. The lesson is, no matter what, God loves you unconditionally. And the people in your life should love you unconditionally too. The mirror reflection, that's just you being judgmental. You will rise to such a higher level when you get to where I say where I am, and it really wasn't that much leaps and bounds. It was just a belief system, speaking directly with Jesus, and now, every day he's in communication. I stepped on the scale the other day and lost a couple of pounds, and he lit me up. He's like, great job, Joe. And, that's, it's a good feeling. So all this is wonderful, and the reason why I'm on camera right now is I encourage you to watch my stuff, because I'm not putting it out there just to get likes and subscriptions, which we do want, because I want to start a community, and I want this to be a safe place. Now, I don't have a great story like I've died and came back and talked to Jesus, but I talk to him every day and I'm alive, and that's the greatest story and gift that anybody can ever have. And it could happen to you. And he's even given me some stuff that helped one of my friends who was in a really bad way, who I love very dearly. And there was certain things that I said to him. He's like, you helped me more than you can ever know and imagine. And Jesus spoke to me to help him. So I'm just here to be a spiritual healer. I remember many years back, my ex-wife was going to a psychic, and she came back and she's like, the psychic said you're a spiritual healer. I'm like, great. How much does that pay? What do I have to do to get that job? Sounds great. So I always knew that I had these special gifts. So before I go, I just would like to say this. It is the path for everybody. It is the chosen path. There's 4 types of people in this world. There's the demons, and these people, they are so far gone mentally, they can't be saved, and they have a short path. There's the non-believers. There's the believers, the people that go to church, they believe, but not the fourth category, which is a true believer, which is what I am, and which is what I'm hoping to make you a true believer. I will tell you this before I go. It's not an easy path, because when you go this route, the dreams that I have and the demons that try to pull you back and oh, this is real. This is real stuff. They want you back badly. They don't bother you in the past because they know you're already on the path to destruction. Yeah, keep drinking, keep smoking, do tobacco, watch porn all you want. Porn's great. That's the devil's channel. But when you switch and you go on the other side, you are going to have to face some demons. I'm not going to lie. But it's all worth it in the end, because you know, you've never felt so close, so safe, so secure. I've never been at peace in my mind like I have right now. So please look out for some more videos. Felt compelled to make this one. If you have any questions, just drop it in the comment section. Like I said, I've never done this before, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions about things that you've experienced, issues that you've been having. I think I've learned quite a lot in the last month or so, over a month. And I'm happy to be your spiritual healer. Thank you.